So often, when we see pop culture portrayals of trans and non-cisgender people's lives, hear stories shared by trans people about their transitions, or accounts by the media about trans people and their transitions, those stories focus on misery and discomfort. It makes sense why this happens. For many transgender people, a big part of what initially pushes us to realise we need to come out is experiencing gender dysphoria, an unpleasant feeling of disconnect between our gender assigned at birth and our own knowledge of our lived experience. Maybe you hit puberty and start growing facial hair, or your voice drops, or you start growing breasts, and suddenly you feel uncomfortable, like the changes happening to your body are alien, are transforming you into someone you don't want to be. All those quietly held thoughts about not being your birth-assigned gender you might have grown up with suddenly have a focal point. Your body is changing, and you don't like what it's becoming. Not every trans person experiences dysphoria, and it's certainly not required to be valid as a trans person. But there's a reason it gets talked about so often, and it's used as a part of the diagnostic criteria. It's quite often what kicks a person from spending years thinking, it sure would be nice to be a different gender from the one I was assigned at birth, into actually deciding to make a change in who they want to live as. Gender dysphoria is a catalyst. It lights a fire under many, and underscores the aspects of themselves they're unhappy living with. Trans people all around the world today, to greater or lesser degrees, are still fighting for legal recognition of their gender status, legal protections, rights, and safety. When it comes to explaining why you need the right to live the way you do, that you feel uncomfortable with yourself, that you need to alleviate a pain deeply lodged in you, that's easy to explain quickly and simply. Everybody has been hurt emotionally in their lives, and it's easy to understand why you would want to take steps to avoid that discomfort. Beyond that, even, the media plays a part in that framing of the trans narrative. If you want people to feel sympathy for the trans community, explain that we're escaping dysphoria. If you want to demonize the community, tell people our dysphoria is a delusion and shouldn't be indulged. It can be spun differently depending on who's trying to spin it, which makes it a powerful aspect of the way trans stories are so often portrayed. I know I, as a trans person, fall into this trap sometimes when discussing my own transition. When I wrote my memoir a few years ago, sure, it touched on some positives and joyful moments, but that certainly wasn't the focus. I wrote a lot about not fitting in growing up, about struggling to be accepted when I came out, and I wrote about the challenges I'm facing in the world today. It made sense to share those parts of my story with the world, but it also got me thinking about how prevalent that narrative can be when discussing trans stories.